Hey guys, welcome to a Vlogmas Day 10. It's kind of late at night. I've kind of had a rough morning. It started out okay, like Xander and I got bagels, and then he had to go to work, but I woke up with a headache and I haven't been able to shake it. I don't know if any of you guys, if that's happened to you, but I woke up with a headache. Like, I took Advil, you know, I took some time away from screens, but I just can't get rid of this headache. And taking Advil has made it like a little bit better, but there's still like this pain in the back of my, or in the front of my head, and it's just like, I guess it's like right behind my eyes. So I've had migraines before. It just doesn't feel like a migraine, or if it is, it's like a really low-key one, because it's not, it's that perfect in between of like, it's painful enough that I notice it, but it's not so painful that I can't like do things, but it does make it kind of uncomfortable, if that makes sense. So anyway, I thought I would open the advent calendar now, and then I thought since I didn't really do anything exciting today, I thought we could just do like a story time, and I'll tell you guys about the time that my dentist dropped a tooth down my throat and I had to go to the ER. So if you're excited for that story, keep watching. If not, maybe just go to the next vlog or the previous vlog if you haven't seen it. But if you had heard that story, it might be fun to listen to it again. But anyway, that's what's coming up next. Right now I'm gonna open the advent calendars. So 10, a heart. Some of these are like really hard to get out of here. I like the heart one. It's called like a firecracker or something. And it's like pops. It's got like little like, I don't know. It's cool. I like it. I mean, it's not cool, it's good. So then we have the Lippy countdown, and that is this one. So this is a NYX lip lingerie in the color Corset. This looks like it's gonna look weird on me, but I will show you right now. Okay, so this is what Corset looks like on me. It's kind of a nude, although I hate the term nude because nude for different skin tones is a different color, but it's kind of like a beigey light brown. It kind of doesn't look like much. It kind of definitely looks weird since I'm not wearing any other makeup, but here it is in the other light. So yeah, it's pretty much just skin tone. Maybe slightly darker than my skin tone and less pink than my natural lip color. So it's fine. The lip lingerie formula I like. So, and this color is not something that I would normally pick for myself because I usually go with something different, but this might be a nice everyday color to wear because it's kind of a little bit different. And I bet it will fade really nice because it's so similar to my regular color. Like if I eat and it comes off or something, then it won't be very noticeable. So I'm not mad at it. I'll have to try it out like with a full face of makeup and see how I like that. So I'm gonna have some dinner and then I will tell you all about the time that my dentist dropped a tooth down my throat. So stay tuned. Okay, hey guys. So I promised you a story time, so here's the story time. So this happened when I was about 17. My mom was on a trip somewhere, and while she was on the trip, I started having really horrible pain in my jaw, and I was staying with my grandparents, and I was hurting so bad that like I couldn't sleep, I couldn't do anything. So I had to, on the first day of finals in May, I had to go get an emergency root canal. that was horrible. If you've never had a root canal, it's the worst. I would not recommend. And so they took that out, and then a couple months later, it was July, and they needed to put a cap on it because it was just kind of down to the nub or whatever. And so I went into the doctor, and they're like fitting me for the cap, and it also so they're fitting me for the cap, and the doctor's like, you know, I'm gonna give you this shot to numb you and just to kind of like relax your mouth so I can put this thing in. And so they mold it, and you know, my mouth's all numb, and the doctor's like asking me all these questions, which is something that I think is so weird about dentists. Like, why do they ask you questions when they have their hands literally in your mouth? It's like they want you to talk while they're like, it just doesn't make sense to me, because obviously I'm not going to be like super talkative or able to have a good conversation with you when your hands are literally in my mouth. So while he is doing this, he keeps scratching like the back of my throat, like not scratching, but like kind of tickling. And he had done it a couple of times. I told him like if he could try not, it's making me gag, and like kind of like have a involuntary knee-jerk reaction when he's touching that part. And it was on the other side of my mouth, so I don't know if he necessarily. So as he's putting the thing in, he touches that spot, and I kind of have to stifle a gag, and literally I feel something fall, but it kind of doesn't connect with me what it is. And all of a sudden I hear him say, oops. And he doesn't say anything to me. He puts his tools down. He goes in the other room for a while. Nobody says anything to me. He comes back and he said, well, I need to look in your mouth again. So he gets like a light and a mirror, and he like puts me back. He's looking down, and he's like, so I need to tell you something. And he's like, we dropped that cap down your throat, and we don't know, it's possible that because it had cement on it, it could cement to the side of your esophagus. And I was like, what? I started freaking out, obviously, and crying, because that's just my natural state of being, is crying. And he's like, well, because of that, because it might be stuck in your throat, we're gonna send you to the ER. Like, we'll pay for it. Just head there now. Tell them to x-ray your chest. Like, we'll call over there too. But you need to go get that checked out, because that could be really bad for you if you have a tooth cemented to your esophagus. So I head over to the ER crying, and I call my mom, and of course, it is both her birthday and she is working late that night. So I call her, and she's like, I can't come to the emergency room because I have to be at this work. It's like the last day of the summer term, and like I just can't come. And like everyone else in my family was like gone on vacation because it's the summer, and like a lot of people are gone, and like so no one could come. So I just went to the emergency room by myself, and this is the first time I'd ever gone to an emergency room or anything like that, so I was really scared. And so I go in there, and I'm like freaked out, like telling them, there's a tooth, there could be a tooth stuck to my throat. My dentist said to go right here right away. And of course, if you've ever been to an emergency room, like unless you have blood squirting out onto them, or like you're delivering a baby, or it's like pretty freaking urgent, they kind of treat you like you're not important, because in the scheme of things you aren't as important as someone who's like projectile squirting blood onto them. So she's like, it's okay, just go sit down. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm like trying to touch my chest like this to see if I can feel where it is. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you, where like someone tells you something and all of a sudden you start to like feel it, you're like, your mind's like tricking you, and so I feel like I have a lump in my throat. I just try to freak myself out coming up with all of the worst possibilities. So while I'm sitting there, a guy comes in, and this guy is squirting blood, and I'd been there for about an hour, and this guy walks in, and he had jumped into what he thought was a puddle, and it was not a puddle. It was like a whole big hole, I don't know, a ditch that had shards of metal in it because it was part of a construction site. And he had like kicked his soccer ball into this puddle, and he thought it was just a puddle, so he like went to go stomp in the puddle that the ball was sitting on, and instead plunged his leg into this pit of water and metal. And so he had like a giant metal shard sticking out of his leg, squirting blood everywhere. Literally blood comes near my feet, and I start crying. And he doesn't seem that concerned with the metal sticking out of his leg. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to get that near you. And I'm like, ah! So anyway, after I end up being in the emergency room for a couple of hours, somewhere between 2 and 3 hours, just sitting there, when they finally call me back and they take an x-ray. I explain everything. They take an x-ray of my chest, and I honestly don't remember what they were saying to me beforehand, because all I could think was like, what do I do if I have a tooth in my throat? Does that mean I have to like cut it out? Or is there like some way to dissolve the cement so that it can just like fall the rest of the way? And like, am I gonna feel like a tooth coming out of me? And so they do the x-ray, and she says that there's no tooth in my throat. And so that's really good. So I'm like super relieved, and I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? And she's like, well, you'll just pass it. And I was like, well, I know. And she's like, probably not, like your stomach acid's, you know, pretty strong, so you probably won't notice. And so it ended up being okay. But the real good part of the story, I mean, I didn't know this until like pretty recently, which was that my mom, my mom was like really mad because she had to pay like all this money to get this cap put on, and she was like really pissed at me. But because he dropped it down my throat, the dentist's place paid for the ER visit, and they paid for the cap as kind of like an apology, and so she didn't have to pay for it. And she was like, I was really glad that I didn't have to pay for it, because I don't think I had the money to do it, because those are really expensive, like thousands of dollars. And I was like, well, I guess it's best case scenario in the end, because nothing that bad happened. Like I was scared, and it was inconvenient for me that day, but ultimately, you know, it saved my mom a bunch of money, and it's a good story for me to tell to you. So to this day, that is one of the many reasons I hate going to the dentist, and I don't like to do it, because dentists scare me. And like, they say that they're not gonna drop a tooth down your throat, and then they do, you know? And like, they're always lying to you about what's happening, and I just don't like them, okay? And I think that next time I go to the dentist, I'm gonna make them just like knock me out. Like, I'm gonna make them knock me out from when I first get into the office, so I can't remember any of the visit, because I just hate going. So, but I mean, wouldn't you hate going too? Tell me down below if you like or do not like going to the dentist, because some people are weird and like going. Luckily it ended well. So that's my story time for the day, and I don't think I'll probably vlog much more, but definitely let me know what you thought of that story below, and I hope you guys have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow for Vlogmas Day 11. Good night, guys.